Welcome to the Subway Conversation Chat. I'm Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to chat about some New York baseball with you all and my co-host, Joe Dalio. So without any hesitation, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going tonight?
It's going great. Hope you're doing well, and hope everybody watching is doing well. It's weather's been beautiful in Buffalo here. It's been like 80s for the last few days. Out on the golf course the other day. So, just beautiful weather here, and definitely since we're talking about baseball, excellent baseball weather that we've had, and hopefully continues here. So, definitely getting deep into the season now, and enjoying the season a lot.
Mm-hmm. So let's actually get started about the injury reports this week, and I'll go first.
Hmm.
This week since you went first last week with the Yankees. So we're going to start
Perfect.
out with everybody's favorite third baseman, DJ LeMahieu. He started a rehab assignment on May 17th with Double-A Somerset. The third baseman went 1-2 with a single and played 3 innings in the field. Then on May 19th, he played 5 innings at third base, going 1-1 while walking 3 times. LeMahieu is planned to play consecutive games on May 21st and 22nd, and manager Aaron. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to exit out your Joe. Sorry, manager Aaron
That's
Boone noticed that the infielder is likely to spend most of his time at third base and may also see some time at first base when he does arrive back to the team. There may be some light at the end of the tunnel for LeMahieu if everything goes right, as Boone says that he may be ready to join the lineup as early as the Yankees' 9-game West Coast trip against the Padres, which is Juan Soto's former team. So that'll be interesting. The Angels and the Giants from May 24th to June 2nd. Now on to Garrett Cole, or as I call him on this show, Old King Cole for new listeners on here. Yesterday, the Cy Young Award winner had the opportunity to pitch from the mound at Yankee Stadium for the first time. He even dressed in his full pinstripe uniform as if he was game ready. The ace pitcher's assignment went very well. The fastball was clocked as high as 96 miles an hour, which is a great sign. But pitching coach Matt Blake wanted Cole to dial it back a little bit. Cole will be seeing 1 or 2 more live batting practices before being ready to begin a minor league rehab assignment. Manager Aaron Boone noted that Cole will travel back to Tampa, Florida when the Bombers leave for their West Coast trip to San Diego that begins Friday. So now let's turn it over to Joe for some Mets news. Joe?
All right. And if you're a Mets fan, you know the news is not good. A rough week for the Mets here. But we'll talk about, records and, statistics coming up soon here. But just a few newsworthy notes here. Joey Wendell, who was a utility player here and not doing too much for them, he was officially let go, designated for assignment. So not too much of a surprise, with some good utility depth, I guess you could say. And, he was probably the least productive out of all of those. So last week, I think it was actually before we spoke last Wednesday, that he was, again, designated for assignment. Some other things going on. Joey Lucchesi, some pitchers going down. Joey Lucchesi, who got a start or two with the Mets, he was sent back down to Syracuse. And a disappointing one for me, Jose Butto, who I was talking about, one of my favorite pitchers so far for this team. And, started off doing well and still not doing horribly, but he had a couple of wild stints, and the walk total was going up a little bit. So, and with some of their other pitchers coming back up, which I'll talk about in a second here, they decided to send Butto back down to Syracuse for a little bit and just, try to get some of the control back and confidence back a little bit. But, he was still doing well. And again, I enjoyed watching him pitch, and especially enjoyed watching him succeed. So thinking and hoping, that he'll be back with them soon. David Peterson, talking about one of those pitchers that started the year on the IL, he was sent to Syracuse for rehab work. So he should be back. I think last week I said end of this month, perhaps early next month, we should be seeing David Peterson. So Mets getting some of that pitching depth back. We talked about some of the other pitchers. Tyler McGill was activated off the injured list and actually pitched the game and pitched decently. So we'll talk about some of those stats when we get to that part of the show there. And one of the soap opera parts that I kind of joke about here, I don't know why I'm so fascinated with mediocre middle relievers here, but we've been talking about Yohan Ramirez like all year, how, you know, he started with the team. He was one of the last pitchers to make the team, struggled a little bit, was let go, went to the Orioles, was doing okay there. They let him go, came back to the Mets, got some pitching there, and was again designated for assignment. And then earlier, I think it was maybe just a couple of days ago, traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers for cash. So this is the second time since the season started that Yohan Ramirez has been traded for cash. So very interesting to see, will he end up back on the Mets again? I don't know. I don't think so, but I didn't think he'd end up back here the first time around. So very interesting story there. So that's some of the roster news, some of the transactions of note that we have there for the Mets, and, you know, some interesting and some, you know, I find a lot of these interesting, again, with guys like Buto going down and, you know, whether or not he'll be back up. You know, Mark Vientos being promoted to the team last week. I had mentioned that, and I'll talk about some of his stats in a little bit as well. So that's Mets news there, and nothing much changing as far as, you know, injured list. Alvarez still there. Again, Peterson coming back up soon. So that's basically it as far as that's concerned. So let's send it back to you, Jamie, for some Yankees information, and things still going well there, it looks like.
Well, Joe, they definitely are. Even after last night's 2 losses in one game that they blew a 9th inning lead, they're still in buyer's territory at the deadline and still sit at an awesome 33-17 right now. So, yeah. But anyway, let's talk about how they've gotten there. Their pitching. Once again, their pitching's been incredible. We're going to start with the lefty wonder boy, Carlos Rodon.
Mm-hmm.
Rodon, let me see. Sorry for a sec. Rodon pitched or reached for first base for the first base dugout and told the managers to stay put. Sorry there, folks. I needed to get my words there, but I got it. The lefty pitchers, the lefty pitcher wanted to finish the 6th inning, and he did with a strikeout. It was another solid outing as the Yanks swept the White Sox with a 7-2 win, and Rodon is gaining confidence in getting his swagger back. As Soldier Boy would say, he would have to turn his swag on at any time.
Love the song references always.
Yep. And then moving on to Clarke Schmidt. This young man's done a great job. Last Thursday, Clarke Schmidt pitched the game of his career a quarter way through 2024. The young pitcher threw 8 scoreless innings, which is a new career record. And the Yankees' bats also came alive too, as Anthony Volpe hit his second career leadoff home run, and then Gleyber Torres sliced a double, scoring Aaron Judge. Another score by Alex Verdugo put the Yankees up 3-0 early, and the Yankees scored 2 more runs after that, and Schmidt sparkled on the mound. So anyways, then therefore the Yankees swept the Twins 5-0 and outscoring them 10-1 in the 2-game series. The young Schmidt hadn't gone 8 innings all season until Thursday, when the righty shined on the big stage. Schmidt finished the game with 8 strikeouts, which tied his career record. Schmidt left the game in the 8th inning after throwing a whopping 103 pitches. Oh, kind of like the old days when that was the norm, right? Get ahead in Major League Baseball. He is now 5-1 on the young season. So, Joe, what do you think about Clark Schmidt actually pitching through 8 innings? I know you love watching starters go deep into games, but this actually happened in 2024. Crazy, right?
I talk about it all the time. People watch this show regularly. You know, I want to see these pitchers go as far as they can, the starting pitchers anyway. So to see a guy go 8 innings, love that. To see a pitcher like you were talking about Rodon before, waving the manager back to the dugout. I love to see that. Starting pitching is, I think these guys need to go longer. They need to be trained to go longer. And to see guys go 8 innings doesn't happen a lot, but I certainly love it when it does. So very happy to see that.
Yep. And next, we're going to move on to the Yankees at bat of the week, starring Mr. Anthony Volpe. The 23-year-old shortstop has been on a tear lately with making another great at bat. And the Yankees faced Twins pitcher Joe Ryan last week. And he's a tough pitcher at that. And the match favored Volpe, however, as he's feasted off of righties this year, as the analytics would say that he has. So anyway, here's the pitch count and how he won this battle. Pitch 1 resulted in a strike with Volpe airmailing, whiffing on it, making an 0-1. The pitch 2 was an 0-1 splitter for a ball, 1-1. Pitch 3 was a 1-1 splitter, failing to help get Volpe to chase or even to swing at it to make the count 2-1. And then the pitch 4 was a 2-1 fastball aimed for the opposite gap, but Volpe whiffed at it, making it 2-2. And pitch 5 was a 2-2 100-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball, laser beam fastball that Volpe got calmed down, and he ripped it over the fence. And a very difficult pitcher to face in Joe Ryan. So, Joe, what did you think about Volpe winning that pitching battle and him grittying that out and being tough?
Love to see those pitching battles. I prefer unless it's my team, I prefer when the hitter wins them. I don't know what it is about that, but and to end up with a home run out of it, it's just those are the classic at bats. So excellent at bat by Volpe, and you're starting to see more and more of those types of things from him too. So Yankee fans have to be encouraged by what they see from Volpe there.
Indeed, we do. The next part that we're going to talk about is Luis Gil breaking El Duque Orlando Hernandez's rookie record strikeout at 13 by having 14. So Luis Gil was already delivering the goods before 1 p.m. The rookie right-hander threw a mixture of wicked fastballs, sliders, cutters, you name it. I mean, the guy can throw 100 miles an hour. He's basically Paul Skeens without the publicity.
Right.
But Gil hurled 14 strikeouts, beating the old record set by El Duque Orlando Hernandez of 13 on August 13, 1998 against the Texas Rangers. The rookie thanks God every day for his opportunity and for him to play this blessed game of baseball. And Hill is he's not ready, I think, to be called El Duque or to be the next El Duque, but with breaking the rookie record of 14 strikeouts, it's really a great start. So, Joe, what do you think about Hill breaking El Duque's record there?
Yeah, love the attitude from him, first of all, and good to see guys like that succeed. And good for him. I mean, this is just something that seems to be happening a lot for the Yankees, is young players really developing and depth and different guys stepping up all the time. And I don't think anybody saw this coming. I mean, there was a lot of potential for him, but I don't think anybody saw this kind of record being broken anytime soon. So good for him. And again, I love the attitude, and, he may even see him going those 8 inning starts at some point. So good for him. Like I said, very happy to see pitchers like that and players and people like that be successful.
Yeah, exactly. He's really paid his dues this year. Coming in, not knowing what to expect. How was he going to handle the pressure of New York and everything, but he's handled it well and is
Mhm.
just overall he's a great young man and is turning into a fantastic pitcher. And who knows, just this is only the beginning for him.
Right.
So,
Where is he from?
well, his name is Luis Hill. I think he's Hispanic. I just don't know exactly where.
Right. Okay. GIL. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was
Mhm.
just curious.
Yeah, I think he might be Cuban, but I don't know.
Okay. I thought maybe
Anyway,
because of the El Duque reference there in comparison, perhaps.
yeah. Mhm. But anyway, we move from the pitcher's mitt to the batting cage. Juan Soto hits first multi-home run game as a New York Yankee. With the Bombers' 6th straight win last Saturday, Juan Soto contributed in a huge way, going 4 for 4. The slugger hit 2 home runs and 3 RBIs in a 6-1 win over Chicago. Soto's first home run came on a 3-1 pitch with 1 out from pitcher Brad Keller to knot the game at 1 in the first inning. It traveled roughly 417 feet and came off the bat at 112.5 miles an hour. Soto's second homer of the day came on an 0-1 pitch from Keller in the 5th inning, extending their lead to 5 runs. This home run was roughly 437 feet and an exit velocity of 110.2 miles per hour. Joe, what do you think of Soto's first multi home run game as a Yankee?
What's next? He just keeps excelling and proving that he belongs in Yankees pinstripes there. And again, as the weather gets warmer here, and all you have to do is pop up the ball in Yankee Stadium and have it go out of the ballpark, I mean, his stats are going to improve. He's proven he belongs on the field. He's proven he belongs in the clubhouse. And that's just the next of many steps there. No surprise that he already had his first multi-home run game. Don't be surprised if there's several more. And start putting him in the MVP conversation because, he's playing like he wants to be not only a part of that conversation, but the conversation and perhaps winning it, especially if he and the Yankees continue to go in the direction they're going.
Mm-hmm. Hey, start spreading the news. I want to be a part of it. New York, new MVP.
That's it. He's definitely got to be one of the front runners this early in the season.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Soto and how well he is playing for the Bombers, are they now ready to sign him? Anyway, are the Yankees ready to sign the ace slugger long term? Owner Hal Steinbruner said on a Yes Network podcast that he wants to visualize Soto in pinstripes for the rest of his career. And we quote, "I don't think there's any doubt of that," Steinbruner said. His agent, Scott Boras, doesn't tend to normally do deals in the middle of the season. Neither do I. I think it could be a distraction. But as I said in spring training when I met with the media, this is a unique situation, a very unique player. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was a conversation the two had possibly during the course of the season. I think it's worth doing at some point. I wanted to give Juan time to really settle in, having a conversation with him at some point, making sure that obviously the most important thing is this a place he can see himself for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
And we think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown. Soto stays in pinstripes. Soto spoke to the media after the Yankees win versus Minnesota last Thursday afternoon. And we quote, "They know the phone number and everything," Soto said. "He knows where to call. For me right here, I'm focusing on playing baseball. My thing is, trying to help the team win." The slugger currently has a salary of $31 million. I feel horrible for him. He's only making $31 million. He should be making $500 million. I feel so bad for these players.
How's the guy supposed to live on that?
Yeah. He's in his last year till free agency. Soto was acquired in a 5-trade player trade with the Padres in December, wanting an opportunity to show the Yanks he could handle the pressure of playing in NYC. The Yankees Juan Soto response to contract talks from Hal Steinbruner. During a recent podcast, New York Yankees owner Hal Steinbruner said that he wants Juan Soto to stay here for the rest of his career, as we just said, but we're going to say it again. Last Thursday, after the Bombers win over 5-0 over the Twins, Soto was asked about Steinbruner's remarks, and he quoted, "My door has always been open," Soto said about potential in-season contract negotiations. Whenever Steinbruner wants to start talking to agent Scott Boras and all his people, they're always open to hear whatever he has. For me, I'm just focusing on the game right now, and that's a great attitude to have.
Good. Yeah, that's what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm. It has been noted that the outstanding outfielder is doubtful to sign any extension before free agency occurs. And we have another quote here. "It's been pretty nice. It's been pretty cool," Soto said about representing the Yankees. "Fan base has been amazing, not only in New York. They've been all over every stadium we go. You can hear it. So the fan base has been unbelievable. New York feels great. It's a lot of culture, a lot of Hispanic culture and everything. I've been feeling good so far in the stadium and clubhouse, and everything has been pretty cool." Well, it sounds like Soto likes playing with the Yankees, but he hasn't made any solid commitment yet. So, Joe, what direction do you think he'll go? Do you think he signs with the Yankees?
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and if he was smart, again, if things continue to go the way they're going, if he was smart, he would make the decision to stay there. If the Yankees were smart, they would make the decision to do what they had to do to keep him there. So I think it's going to happen. It may not happen until the end of the season. Again, traditionally, both these guys like to wait until that point. But I don't see anything changing here. I don't see Soto, going downhill statistically, or yes, he's going to hit slumps and he's going to have issues and his valleys during the season. But again, he's an MVP candidate, and I think it's going to stay that way through the season. The Yankees aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay in contention all season. So I don't see this changing. And I think both sides, Soto and the Yankees, are smart enough to make this happen. I think it would be the best career spot. I mean, where else is he going to go that's better than with the Yankees? Seriously. If the Yankees were a rebuilding team or something, yes, it would be great to be playing for the Yankees in New York. But I could see him maybe wanting to explore other options to have a chance at another championship or something like that. But that's not the case here. Again, there's no better situation. Okay, he can maybe, I don't even see anybody paying him more than the Yankees would pay him. I mean, have you ever seen a situation where a team outbids the Yankees? It doesn't really happen. Or if it does, it doesn't happen often. But again, nobody's going to outbid them. There's no better situation for him. Even if the Yankees don't win the World Series this year, they're going to have a chance, it seems like, for the foreseeable future. And even if they do win the World Series this year, it's, not impossible that they win more down the road. So there's no better situation for him. The Yankees, yes, they can move on from him, and there's other great players out there, but he's a great fit in New York. Both sides think that. Both sides know that. And I think both sides are smart enough to eventually make it happen that he stays there long term.
Indeed, they do. And Soto is definitely wonderful, and he's an MVP. And guess what? We have a home run. How about a home one?
A home run? Ooh, there you go. I like the Rocket Man reference a few minutes ago, because he's launching rockets out of that stadium and every stadium that he's playing in. So, I thought that one was appropriate too. But yeah, I like the home run. You might have started something.
John Sterling, if you're listening, I know you're retired, but I wish you could have done that one. I came up with that one that you could have used. It's a home run for Juan Soto.
Right. When everybody's using that, they could say, we heard it here from Jamie first.
All right. Now let's actually turn it back over to Joe. We're going to turn it over to you now, Joe, for some more Mets news. Joe?
All right. Well, thank you very much. And great job with your Yankees info there. Always excellent job. I wish I had good news. I mean, lots of good news in Yankee land there, and things going well. And I think, only going to get better. On the Mets side of things, not so well. Now, it's not the end of the world here, but let's go over a few things. There are some highlights here. First of all, this week, 2-6. And a little bit concerning here is the fact that they're kind of having the opposite problem that they did to start the season. The first part of the season, the first, quarter mark, pitching was the strength. They were getting good starting pitching and solid efforts, 5-6 inning starts, which, again, I would love pitchers to go more than that. But by 2024 standards, 5-6 innings consistently is not so bad. Relief pitching, best relief corps in the National League. Things have turned around, though. The problem in the beginning of the year was the Mets couldn't hit a beach ball, right? So many of their stars not hitting and low averages and low production. They got that going a little bit and went on a little bit of a winning streak, and the pitching remained consistent. But now things seem to be going the opposite way. I mean, not that they're smacking the ball all over the place, but the hitting has definitely improved by most players anyway. But this past week, a 2-6 record by the Mets, 8 games, because when we did our show at 8 o'clock last Wednesday, the Mets were still playing against the Phillies. We didn't have the result on that one yet. So 2-6, not very promising here. Now, again, games against the Phillies, which they lost that Wednesday game, but they did beat them on Thursday. What really hurts, in my opinion, is losing 2 out of 3 in Miami. I mean, the Marlins are one of the worst teams in the National League here. The Mets should have won 2 out of 3, but it didn't happen that way. And you can't lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. So that, to me, is the toughest part of it. And then playing 3 games against the Cleveland Guardians, who are certainly playing way over their heads, but still playing amazing baseball here. Would have been good if the Mets could have taken one of those games, but lost all 3, including the game today. Now, the alarming thing here is that they were outscored 52-33. So 52-33 in 8 games here, that translates to giving up 6.5 runs per game this week. So obviously that pitching that they were getting before, certainly not getting it done here. Now, they did score 4 runs a game on average there, almost, or a little over that, 33 runs in 8 games. So certainly that's not the problem. So got to do something about the pitching. But just talking about some of the positives in the hitting there, Pete Alonso with a couple of home runs. He's at 11 for the season now. Couple RBIs, and he did hit 290 batting average this week and 901 OPS. Overall, he does have the highest OPS on the team at 779, even though, again, for Pete Alonso, I think it should be at least 100 points higher than that. So, and you would hope that 779 wouldn't be the highest OPS on the team. Jeff McNeil woke up a little bit. We were criticizing him last week a little bit, but a lot, actually. But 2 home runs this week, 5 RBIs. So hitting or with an 829 OPS. One of the encouraging things is only 2 strikeouts in 27 at-bats this week. So Jeff McNeil, that's a lot more Jeff McNeil-like, not striking out, making contact. 2 home runs, that's a bonus because he's not known for his power. But, getting those 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, certainly helpful. Harrison Bader had a great week with a home run, 6 RBIs, 364 batting average, and 982 OPS this week. So definitely a good week from him. He had slumped a little bit, so nice to get him back. Marte, Nimmo, Nido all had a home run this week. Nimmo still leads the team in RBIs with 29. And let's talk about this player in the where has he been category. And I'm talking about Mark Vientos. Yeah, he was called up with the team last week and was playing great ball. I mean, I thought he should have made the team in the beginning of the season. I mean, they had some depth there and had some guys that they wanted to try out, and Vientos was the odd man out. But was doing great in Syracuse in the minors there. The Mets had called him up, and he did well before he was sent down again. But, he's definitely getting the job done. This week he had a home run, just a couple RBIs, but 1,047 OPS. So he's hitting the ball. He's getting extra base hits. and producing here. So hopefully Vientos here to stay. Now, if you look on the opposite end of the spectrum a little bit, it could be at Brett Baty's expense, because if Vientos stays, Brett Baty might be on his way down. Now, he got off to a good start, and Brett Baty is one of those guys that you want to see do well. I was very happy for him when he was doing well and got off to a good start this season. But we were talking about the strikeouts last week, and that just continued. He struck out in 40% of his at bats, 4 out of 10 times, but can't be striking out 40% of the time. He only hit 200 this week. So, I don't know what they're going to do with him. He's getting less playing time. And if, that roster gets crowded, you may see him end up going back down. I don't know what's happening with Francisco Lindor. He's had his bright spots here and there, and there was times where you just thought, okay, now he's finally got it. He's going to get going. Only 2 RBIs this week. He hit 200. He's only hitting 203 for the year. So he's almost going back under that Mendoza line, as they say, that under 200. So I don't have an explanation for it. So I guess it's just a matter of, like a couple of years ago when he struggled, he eventually figured it out and got going. But if the Mets, want to get going and move forward, Lindor has to be one of those guys to step up. So we'll see what happens. He's certainly got the capability, and hopefully he does. I mean, I don't know how much of him or the Mets that, that you're aware of there. But before I go into some of the pitching stats, do you have any idea what could be going on with Francisco Lindor, or have any explanation as to why, he's struggling so much as he is?
I'm obviously a Yankees fan, Joe, but I do know some things about the Mets. I just think he's not going to be in their long-term plans, it sounds like, if he keeps struggling, because we talked about it backstage, and you heard me say this. The owner of the Mets basically said, we're going to be sellers regardless of where the team is, even if we're a playoff team or not. And he could be one of those guys that they may look to sell for younger players, as well as maybe Pete Alonso or Martinez. We'll see. But maybe that's that.
Okay. But I mean, yeah, I don't see that happen. He's still got like 1,000 years left on his contract, and he's getting paid zillions of dollars. So I don't know, if a trade would happen with him. But again, he's got to figure it out if the Mets are going to get going. And again, not that the offense is playing horribly at this point, much better than they were in the beginning of the season. But he's number one as far as guys that need to figure out. So let's get into some of the pitching stats here. And pretty encouraging, Tyler McGill, who started the year on the IL and, got his way back and made a start here. Second start of the season. He did pitch one game the first week of the season. So, Peterson hasn't played yet, but McGill had one start early and did okay. But, this last start here, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, only gave up 2 earned runs, and pretty encouraging here, 7 strikeouts in those 5 innings. So he looked good, didn't look like he had any adverse effects from the injuries. So certainly some depth there and some encouragement there. Sean Manaea, probably the most consistent starter for them. He got a win this week. And 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs again. So certainly, Mr. Consistent there. And he's had a couple of bad starts, but generally, I think Mets fans should be very happy with the way Manaea is pitching. Jose Quintana has been up and down. He has a good start, has a bad start. You don't know which one's going to show up. This week, though, did quite well. He made 2 starts, 11 innings pitched, did give up 5 earned runs in that. So, 3.97 ERA, but it's not the end of the world. And again, 5.5 innings on average there. 0.71 whip, though, walks, hits to innings pitched, 0.71. So that's encouraging, the fact that he's not giving up a lot of hits and walks there. So hopefully that'll continue. In the relief, in the bullpen, Jorge Lopez getting more time. And he pitched 4 games this week, 3 2/3 innings, only gave up 1 hit in that 3 2/3. You're talking about the walks and hits to innings pitched, 0.55, which is excellent and certainly encouraging. He got the other win, by the way, the second of the 2 whole Mets wins that they got. And the opponents were only hitting 100 against Jorge Lopez in those 3 2/3 innings. So encouraging there. Good that somebody is stepping up in the bullpen, because I got some negative news to share here in a second. Speaking of negative news, one pitcher that hasn't shown up for the Mets yet is Adrian Hauser. He got knocked around again, and it's only a matter of time before he sees less and less action. He was demoted to the bullpen for a little bit. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 6 earned runs. So it's not going to cut it. And again, it's a matter of time, I think, before we see less and less of Adrian Hauser. Now, here's the biggest reason for concern for Mets fans. And, Adrian Hauser, I'm not so optimistic that he's going to recover from this. Edwin Diaz, on the other hand, I think will. A guy that for a whole season was untouchable. You wondered how he was going to come back after the injury. Started off the season amazing, the same Edwin Diaz we saw, 2 seasons ago. But he had another blown save this week. He's got 3 of those now. He pitched an inning and a third, gave up 5 hits, 5 earned runs. If you want to do the math, that's a 33.75 ERA. Obviously, that's not going to get it done. So he's another concerning thing here. He's allowed 5 home runs for the season. When you're not pitching, you're only pitching 18 innings so far. That's how much he's pitched. He's given up 11 earned runs in those 18 innings. And again, 5 home runs. So very concerning there about Edwin Diaz. Now, again, I am optimistic that he figures it out and gets them out of it. But again, you talk about players that need to step up and have to be, their superstar selves if the Mets are going to progress here. Edwin Diaz certainly has to do that. And again, some of these bullpen struggles, Reed Garrett has been probably their most consistent guy. And even he struggled this week. He got his first loss of the season. He pitched 5 innings, but gave up 7 hits, couple earned runs. He did have 8 strikeouts, though. And again, on the season, he's still 5-1 with a 1.04 ERA. So not too concerned about Reed Garrett. He was due, I guess, for some regression here, and we saw that. In the back of the bullpen, again, Adam Ottavino was amazing for the first quarter of the year, but he struggled again. And 2 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs allowed. Again, that's the optimistic side there. I really do think he figures it out and hopefully goes back to the way he started the season. A couple of down starts by Christian Scott, who, again, one of the new pitchers that they picked up that had been promoted and was doing well. He struggled. Luis Severino, he's been, pretty consistent most of the season. I was sharing he had like a low 3s ERA, and that moved up a little bit to, mid to upper 3s here. He had a rough start, but again, hopefully Severino can get back to where he was as well. So as we look ahead now, a little bit concerning for the Mets. They're 14 games out of first place, obviously not at a point in the season that they wanted to be. But let's look to some optimism here. I looked at the standings, and they are 3 games out of a wild card spot. There's 6, I didn't write down the record here, but 6 or 7 games under 500. Which is not good. But when you look at it, 3 games out of the wild card, and even before I noticed that, looking at it earlier, I'm thinking, this team is 1 7-game winning streak away from being right back in contention. So I still believe that. Now, time is running out. I mean, you can't have too many 2-6 streaks like you had this week, especially against some mediocre competition. Certainly not the Phillies and the Guardians mediocre, but the Marlins certainly. Now, some tough games this week, but they're opening up a 10-game homestand. So certainly a chance to make up ground. Now, you don't have to get it all back at once. I will be very happy if we're talking in a couple of weeks and talking about how the Mets went 6-4 on this homestand. If they can do better than that, that's awesome. But 6-4, we'll certainly take that. Now they're playing against the National League West, 3 games against the Giants, and the Giants started slow, but they are playing some pretty good baseball these days. Of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers come in the middle there, a 3-game series against them, and then a 4-game series against Arizona, who I thought they were frauds in the beginning of the season. I picked them not to make the playoffs when everybody else was picking them for the World Series. Not to gloat too much, because if you look at some of my other predictions, I got nothing to brag about here. But so far, I've been right about the Diamondbacks. And again, so a chance for the Mets. That's a 4-game series next week, for the Mets to perhaps gain some ground. So again, if I can get 6-4 on this homestand, I think that would be good, and take those baby steps to get back in this race here. And again, when you look at it, I mean, the division, you got 2 of the best teams in baseball ahead of you. So it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to make up 14 games on the Braves and the Phillies. But I think they can make up 3 games against some of this wild card competition. So, I'm going to stay optimistic, and, it's a little early to talk, trades and stuff now, although, Jamie, you did mention it a minute ago here and backstage earlier that, and I agree with you that I think that even if the Mets do get in this playoff race and, let's say at the halfway mark or the trade deadline, they're in the wild card or in the conversation anyway, I still see them being more sellers, than buyers. I don't think they're going to buy to try to get a wild card spot here. We'll see. I think it's still a little too early to talk specifics and things like that. And as a Mets fan, I can say it now, I wouldn't have a problem with that. We don't want a fire sale, and I don't think that's the intention. But I wouldn't have a problem, even if they are in the race here, if they, thought more seller mode, youth mode, than buy. So again, time is running out. I hate to say that almost a third of the way through the season, but they need to turn things around to have a chance. You don't want to get too far out of this where, it's you got to play more and more catch up here. So we don't want to see 2-6 for a week, but this team has the potential again for that 6, 7, 8 game winning streak to get right back in this thing and even get ahead a little bit. So that's where we are as far as the Mets are concerned this week, and hoping that we have a lot more positive news to talk about next week.
Guess what, Joe? That's great, but guess what? It is now that time in our show for our question of the week segment. Do you want to give it a try? Because last week you finally answered the bell and got it right.
Yeah, speaking of winning streaks, if I can hit a 7-game winning streak here with these trivia questions and get my record back on track, that would be great. So, again, I'm not too optimistic based on my previous record, minus last week. But bring it on. I'm ready to answer a trivia question correctly here.
Okay, Joe, here's your question. Can you guess this MLB player? He has 1 World Series under his belt, played on 2 different teams, and won 2 MVP awards. Is it the Big Hurt, Frank Thomas, Miguel Cabrera, Bryce Harper, or Albert Pujols?
All of them. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. Anybody watching this live, please type your answer in the chat. No, I'm just kidding, because this is my question here. Oh, my goodness. That could be any one of these guys. Let's see. You said 1 World Series and 2 MVPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Frank Thomas, I believe he won a World Series if he was on that White Sox team in 2005. And he would be a candidate to win 2 of those. Bryce Harper, I know he's won a World Series. I don't know if he was MVP twice yet. Who was after? We got Harper. We got Thomas. Who are the other 2?
Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols.
Trying to think of how many. I think Pujols won more than one World Series. So I'm gonna eliminate him, and then Cabrera. Cabrera won one World Series. Jeez. Well, my first instinct was Frank Thomas, so that's where I'm going to go. Frank Thomas.
Nope, it was Miguel Cabrera.
It was Miggy Cabrera. Okay. I wasn't sure if he had more than 2 MVPs or, he won that Triple Crown, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime again. So, that's pretty awesome. But all right, I thought maybe he had a couple of more than that. So, all right, back to the drawing board. We'll get in next week.
That's okay, Joe. Now, we've talked about our top MLB power rankings and who we would pick. Would you like to share yours first, Joe?
Yeah. Let's see. I thought this, I heard this, MLB always does this, and they talk about their power rankings. I was listening to MLB radio last week. They were talking about it. So I was like, you know what? I thought this would be something every once in a while to talk about on our show here. So, so I guess I'll go through my whole list here, start from 5. And it may be a little bit different than some people would have. The top of my list, I don't think there's any surprises. But my first team to mention is the Atlanta Braves at number 5. Now, I didn't think I'd be at any point of the season having them at number 5. And there's a very good chance that if we have this conversation in a month or two, they're, significantly further up the list. Certainly nothing wrong with this team, except the only negative I would say is they're maybe not playing to their true potential yet, which is dangerous for the league if that's the case. 27-18 record, a plus 59 run potential, which isn't as impressive as some of the other teams I'm going to mention, but they have allowed the second least runs, number of runs. They've allowed 167 runs so far, in those, if my math is right, 45 games. So amazing there. There's one team ahead of them at 165, which will be a little further up my list. That would be the Yankees. So again, Atlanta Braves, number 5, still amazing, even though they're not even in first place at this point. They're my number 5. Now, my number 4 team, I didn't think I was going to put them in there, but then I looked at some of the numbers here, and I just had to put them in. And not just because they swept the Mets recently, but the Cleveland Guardians. I keep waiting for them to go on some, losing streak and, play to, where they were before. But this team just continues to win. And a 33-17 record, first place in the American League Central, which isn't such a surprise. The fact that division was wide open and one of the weaker ones in baseball. But a plus, I can't read my writing here, 65 run potential. The crazy thing about the Guardians is it's different than the way they've been doing it the last few years. They've been a pitching team, and not so much offensively. But now they are second most in runs scored in the American League. All right, only Kansas City is better. Guys that aren't really known, like David Fry. Who the heck is David Fry? I mean, the guy's got over 1,000 OPS. Josh Naylor, I mean, he's been playing good ball for a while, but he's, having a breakout, career season. Stephen Kwan, who, we've been watching develop here for a little bit, now is having his breakout season. So, Jose Ramirez, who's been amazing forever, still pounding out home runs. I believe he's got 12 home runs. So just as we keep waiting for this team to slide down, they're not doing it. And they're scoring runs in bunches, and fun team to watch. I really haven't seen much of them this year, but I think it's time to start watching because the Cleveland Guardians are for real. All right. If I move up to number 3 now, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And something tells me, again, we have this conversation in 2 months. They're going to be towards the top or at the top of the list. This always happens. The Dodgers start a little on the slow side. And if they're starting on the slow side, I guess 33 wins, 18 losses isn't so slow. And watch out if this is a slow start. But it's not really. But I still, they're the type of team that gets to July and August and go, 50-5 and just are untouchable. So I think we still haven't seen the best of the Dodgers at this point. 262 runs scored. That's the most in the National League. And plus 83 run differential. So this team is just getting started, I think. Team number 2, I have this team is 33-17. You like to talk about them a lot, Jamie. They are the New York Yankees. And just the reason I have them higher than the Dodgers at this point is not just because of the half a game difference there, but just the balance. The Dodgers, I have some concerns as far as starting pitching, not talent-wise, but like injury-wise, and guys keep going down, and depth might be an issue later on. Whereas the Yankees are only going to get better pitching, when Cole comes back, and, the bullpen is the best in baseball. So, the Yankees are really, I think, such a well-rounded, excellent team here. And I don't see that changing. And again, they can get stronger in both categories there. They're smacking the ball around. Again, Juan Soto's an MVP candidate. Volpe's continuing to ascend in his career. It's just they're, completely legit and the most well-rounded team there. Now at number 1, and I keep saying this is another team that I think, is not as good as their record now, but they just won't stop winning. And of course, I'm talking about the Philadelphia Phillies, 35-14 record, a plus 83 run differential, just like the Dodgers there. But this team is again, we say how fun they are to watch. One of the best stadium experiences. I've never been to the stadium. Maybe it's time to make a trip. Who knows? But, you watch a game from there and the atmosphere is amazing. This team is fun to watch. They seem to love playing with each other. And again, they're not going anywhere. And if you would have told me, around Memorial Day that the Phillies were going to be several games ahead of the Atlanta Braves, I don't know if I definitely wouldn't have believed you. And I still don't think it stays this way. I think the Braves ultimately take the division. But if anybody doesn't think the Phillies are a World Series contender, they're sadly mistaken. So all 5 of these teams playing like contenders. And I left a few off the list. I'll give a couple of honorable mentions real quick. I mean, the Baltimore Orioles are dangerous because they won 100 games last year, and nobody is talking about them right now. And yet they're only a couple of games behind the Yankees and continue to play excellent baseball, continue to have an amazing nucleus of young players that continue to develop and get better. Good all around, pitching, hitting. Nobody's talking about this team. And I think the Orioles like it that way. And again, they're developing more and more confidence each game. So I didn't put them on the top 5 yet, just because, again, I think these teams are a step ahead of them at this point. But don't be surprised if they're around, later on. And again, when nobody's talking about them, they just sneak up and hit a hot streak and do great. And another team that I left off the list, but I mean, if they continue to play the way they are, you may find them on here, is a team that, we're talking about one of my wrong predictions that I mentioned before, the Kansas City Royals. I said in the beginning of the season that they would be improved, but they're certainly not ready for prime time. And I watched them play the other night, actually, in a game. And this team just, again, they look like they're not afraid of anybody. And they're having fun. They're playing loose. They seem to be playing, with house money at this point. Again, nobody expected them to be where they are. As well as Cleveland is playing, the division, I think, is still wide open, and they're only a game and a half or so behind Cleveland. So that's a team that's going to be there at the end of the year, if not at the top of the division. So I didn't put them on the list yet, but I'll give the Royals also an honorable mention here. So thank you for letting me share my top 5. And again, if anybody watches this and wants to, put their opinions, agree or disagree, in the chat, certainly do that. And I'd be curious to know if you agree or disagree with mine. But we'll look for that. But Jamie, I am very curious to hear what you have to say as far as your top 5 list.
I certainly do, Joe. And mine's a little bit out in the left field. So
okay. Then
that's why we have this show, to spice things up. Exactly. And anyway, speaking of the Phillies stadium experience, what the fans will be singing all year long. I know they'll be ayo, ayo, okay. I know I'll be ayo, ayo, okay.
Isn't that somebody's walk-up song too? One of the Phillies has that as their walk-up song, I think, too.
Yeah, and they sing it while they play it. So
right.
But anyway, my number 5 team is it's the Los Angeles Dodgers, and here's why. The Dodgers, we all know, they're wonderful at being great in the regular season all the time, and they're always near the top of the league standings. But what always seems to happen to them when they get into the playoffs, they're always in trouble. They never seem to ever get over that hump and win the World Series. So they've done it again, folks. And Shohei Ohtani's obviously still the face of the MLB. And the question is, like I said, can the Dodgers finally overcome their playoff hurdle and finally win a World Series? That's why I have them at 5, because they haven't figured out how to climb over that hump yet.
I think they're going to this year. They're my World Series winner pick, but you're right. The past history wouldn't indicate that for sure, but this is their year. But yeah, right now I agree. I can go with that.
Mm-hmm. Number 4, I got the Baltimore Orioles. And now you're probably wondering why the Orioles 4th. They're kind of like a mystery team this year, because at one point they're on a high streak, and they're right there with the Yankees. But then the other side, you got Jackson Holiday, who isn't really turning out to be the prospect. As of not yet, he still could be. But
right.
They already sent him down after they called them up, so they don't know what to do with him yet. But anyway, though, one positive is they're still they have the potential to be top 2 in my power rankings, but they're right now still behind the Yankees in terms of divisional standings. Number 3, I have the Atlanta Braves, which the reason why this is a team that we've talked about, but it sounds like nobody's talked about them. Remember, they won a World Series in 2021. So how could a team that was only 27-17 at the time I wrote this be a number 3? And I said, well, this is another team, Joe, where every time we think they're going to fall, they don't. And really, this is a team that if it wasn't for the Phillies, they'd be right. I would put them at number 2, and they happen to be in a division with the Phillies, and they're one game behind them. And Ozzie Adelow hit an RBI the other night for the Braves, and then Jared Kellis had a leaping catch. And guess what? And at the end, folks, it's the land of the free and the home of the Braves.
There we go.
Kind of like when they used to do "and the home of the Jets," but
yeah,
that's a reference there too. Number 2, I have the Philadelphia Phillies, and the reason why I think they're number 2 is this is another team, like we said, we think they're going to come back to earth, but it only makes them stronger. Bryce Harper is having a great season. He's also going viral for promposals, which is really nice too. The Phillies pitching has also done well, but I still think they're going to be buyers at the deadline, which leads me to my number 1 team, kind of a homer here, but it's a good reason to be home. My number 1 team is, of course, my New York Yankees. And despite a 5-4 hiccup to the Seattle Mariners, it's without a doubt that the Yankees are number 1, or should I say number 1. Juan Soto has been everything the Yankees they wanted since in the trade with the Padres. And the pitching has also been good, minus Garrett Cole, and it's only going to get better with Cole being back. So there you have it, folks. There's me and Joe Delio's top 5 MLB power rankings this week. And if you want to leave your own power rankings in the comment section. That's great. Or if you want to agree or disagree with ours, go right ahead. We gladly appreciate it.
Definitely.
Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in the social media world on May 22nd, 2024?
Social media, Joe Dell Sports on Twitter, X.
Mm-hmm. And then you can find me, yours truly, on Bill's Chat 1 at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dogcast on X, and also theforkball.com, where I write about all sports. And before you guys leave, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, Driving to the Top Productions. Hit that like button and for notifications, and don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to tune in to the Subway Conversation channel. Please tune in every Wednesday at 8 o'clock p.m. on the Driving to the Top YouTube channel, the Twitch channel, or wherever you listen to your podcast live. Thank you very much for listening, folks. And your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Subway Conversation Chat with Jamie and Joe. See you next week, folks.
Have a great week, everybody.
Yeah.